back body. Say, oh, it's another one, yeah. It's a full strong, yeah. Oh, it's another one, yeah.
Good evening. My name is Biyenge. This is iBoxingHub featuring yours Truly Tre, and we've got a special guest, Jon, the TM14 promoter. What's good, Jon?
All good this end, mate. Chuffed to come on your podcast. First time for us, so thanks for having us. I hope you two boys are well.
Yes, all good, Jon. Literally, I just felt that this would be a tremendous opportunity just for you to come on, educate the community about the great work that you do. I don't think you get enough credit for the shows that you do, especially last year. You did back-to-back events, which are like 50-50 fights as well. So I just wanted to educate the community of the great work you've done. And look, thank you so much for everyone that's tuned in as well.
Yeah, thanks for having us, mate. We're looking forward to talking about whatever it is you want to go through, really, whether it's our shows or elite shows, whatever.
Yeah, so question, Jon. What got you into becoming a boxing promoter?
Yeah, good question, Biyenge. I always wanted to do it from a young age, but a young adult age, probably not like a 5-year-old, but 18, 19, 20. I just always wanted to be involved in boxing. Not good enough to box myself, you can tell from looking at me. So it was the opportunity to, or that's what a dream was. But I'll be honest, I always thought when I was about 20, chances of me being a boxing promoter would be about just as strong as me being a pilot. So then about 5 years ago, I stumbled into the sport where I was in the media world, where I was interviewing fighters at press conference, fights, weigh-ins. I was getting accreditation to all the top shows. So I met all the top fighters, interviewed top names and promoters in the sport, built relationships with the gyms at that stage. So when I'd meet people at fights, I'd ask the managers and the fighters and the trainers, can I come to your gym and watch you all spar and do some interviews? I'm very driven. And then that had come from there, really. I sort of like built up a load of connections. I then just decided one day, it was after a meeting at a gym in Northampton where I went to interview Kieran Conway, spoke to his dad, and I thought, there's no fights that have been on here in Northampton for years. I live in Milton Keynes, which isn't far. And I thought to myself, do you know what? Let's see if we have a go. It's all about building relationships and that. And I thought, what's the worst that could happen? I try and do it and I don't succeed my dream. Oh, well, I've tried. I'm one of them, rather than not to try. And it went brilliant. You know, we sold out 1,000 venue on our first ever show, made a bit of a bang, got some good fighters and some good names on there. Remember at the time I had a Peacock fighter on my first fighter. I had Kevin Mitchell fighter in there out of the Matchroom gym on there. I had the Fale brothers were on there. One pulled out injured, but Carl Fale was on there. They're all from Northampton, these lads. And it just went from there. The demand was that we did really well, so why wouldn't we continue? And here we are, 40-odd fights later and 2 years later.
Wow, it's actually so powerful what you've done, Jon, because I obviously met you through my work at Ticket Pass. So we obviously helped you with the online tickets, and just through just going to your events, being part of the events as well. I obviously brought my cousin along, Biyenge. He came to one of your events as well. And yeah, I was just really sort of excited and really sort of inspired by the work yourself, Aaron, Mo, obviously in the back end. And you obviously mentioned that you did a lot of press work in the background. We obviously know that one of our co-hosts, Ra, who does the R&R Hour, he obviously said that you gave him the first sort of opportunity in that world. So he's super appreciative for everything that you've done for him and us as well.
Yeah, they're nice words. Yeah, Rashid, I call him. I think everyone else calls him Ra. Again, I had an interview earlier on another channel, and it's sometimes in the sport, it's like timing. I bumped into Rashid. I was with a friend going to a show in Birmingham. I'd just done my first and second shows as a promoter, and the guy who I was working with for the YouTube company, I was like, I'm not really sure I can do both anymore from a timing point of view, and I'm not really sure that a promoter should be there interviewing other people. It kind of felt like maybe I needed to let it go, even though I loved it, and that was my time and my getting in sport. I bumped into Rashid that night through a friend, and he told him what I did, and he was like, I've always wanted to do that. And now Rashid goes all over the world. You know, he's been to Saudi, he goes everywhere, he goes to all the top fights. And sometimes it is timing, but Rashid's a grafter, mate. He works harder or as hard as anyone else on the circuit. He'll interview everyone. He gives everybody time. You know, some of the companies and some of the media people, they don't want to interview the undercard or this fighter who's at Everton or that fighter. I only want to come and interview that fighter. So yeah, he's very good, Rashid.
Cool. John, what's your thoughts on Eddie Hearn had mentioned that he's made an offer to Gervonta Davis for him to fight Conor Benn in America. Do you think it's too early or a mismatch?
Too early for what, Conor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think when you look at Gervonta Davis, he's a class act. He has to be in the pound for pound conversation. You know, I'll go back a couple of years, that kind of lightweight division at the time. You know, you had Lomachenko, Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Teofimo Lopez, Gervonta Davis. Now, sadly, all of them haven't gone in with each other. Kambosos, they haven't all gone in with each other. A few have fought, but I do think the best out of them is probably Gervonta Davis. He's done everything he's needed to at elite level. I do think Conor's a bit bigger. And you never know. But Gervonta Davis is that slick and that good. I don't see how someone of Conor Benn actually gets rid of him if no one else has. But I might be wrong. And I don't know if you're Eddie Hearn, if he genuinely is offered the contract. I was skeptical when I read it earlier because you know what the stories are like, and everybody talks. Even me, I give it a load of rubbish on camera sometimes when it might not be right. Not on this one, of course. But it could be that it's just a smoke screen. It could be that they're trying to lure Eubank Jr. into sign in case he thinks he misses it. It could be for any reason. It isn't going to happen in the UK by the looks of it because he still hasn't got a license. So Conor Benn is a box office attraction, possibly in this country. He's not in America. So I'm not sure what value the American pay-per-view market will pay for it. Would we pay for it over here pay-per-view? Yeah, probably. But if it's in America, the timing of it's going to be crap anyway. So it's going to be at 4 or 5 in the morning if it's Vegas, which makes it harder to sell over here. I'm not sure that fight happens. And I think in answer to your question, if it does, at the moment, I would go with Davis because it's too early. And I'm not sure he'll ever be good enough to beat Gervonta. No offense to Conor.
Yeah. This is why I absolutely love John, because the honesty right there. I kind of felt that with Conor Benn's previous performances in the States, I know he's talented and I'm a massive fan of Destroyer, but I definitely felt that he didn't really put out a statement out there in these last 2 performances in order for those American fans to, you know, gravitate towards him, if that kind of makes sense. So his stock in the States, I wouldn't say is at its highest, but like you said, in the UK, we obviously love him and we'll support him.
Spot on. Good comment, Trey, and I couldn't agree more. If you compare it to AJ, so AJ wanted to go over with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn is the smartest man, like I've said, in boxing. He certainly knows how to talk it and get the deals done. He took AJ to America. He was due to fight Jarrell Miller. The expectation was he was going to win, and then attract the Americans. Fighters ringing me, actually. He wanted to attract the American public like he had the English. It didn't go for him on that night and he lost to Andy Ruiz in the end, as we know, and that was kind of the end of AJ in the American dream because it didn't work. Conor Benn's gone over there. He hasn't been beaten, which is important, and he's won the both fights, Trey. I think they were slightly lackluster compared to what we expect or want to see. I don't think that's critical of Conor. You've got to remember, you know, Conor would thrive off the energy that he would get from the British fans, being in London at somewhere like an O2 or Wembley Arena or wherever it may be, headlining. Even when I went to watch him beat Chris Algieri, was him? Chris Algieri up in Liverpool. Yeah, where was I? I'm trying to think where I was. I think I was in Liverpool. And Katie Taylor was on before him, you know. So he's used to headlining big events. And again, his dad's name would be known over there. And I think sometimes he gets a bit of stick because of who his dad is. And sometimes the expectation might be a bit big. But he backs it up. He's a good fighter. Obviously, what happened with the drugs test 18 months ago, a year ago, has prevented him stop fighting here. So they have to go and fight. So love him or hate him or think that he shouldn't be fighting or not for the drugs test, they're doing what they can. They've gone over there. But yeah, you know, I'm not sure the American audience are now going to be like, well, the Americans will be sat there. I looked at a couple of sites earlier that were talking about Gervonta Davis, and it was like, why would he even fight him? What's the value in Gervonta fighting Conor Benn over here? He's not a name. He's not deserving of some of the other contenders who are higher up the rankings or would expect to give Gervonta a tougher time. Some of the American sites I was looking at, or American fans, and admittedly they're Americans, so they would be biased, but it was almost like it would be a weak fight compared to what they'd want to see. But he could surprise us. But he's done well. I remember him in his early fights when he drew with that, was it Cedric Pienard, the French fella?
Yes.
And he looked awful. He looked awful. But do you know what? He's learned the trade, and he had no amateur experience, if memory serves me right. And when you've got no amateur experience and then you get to the level you're at, sometimes I think people don't give you the credit for that. And he definitely deserves credit, Conor. And like you say, we love him over here. Whether I wouldn't be taking that fight if I was Conor Benn, unless it's a ridiculous payday and I know that I'm never going to be able to fight back again in England and money talks. But I don't see him winning it, and I don't see where he goes from it if he doesn't win it.
Oh, yeah. It's a tough one for
Conor. Although there's always cash fights, because at that stage, if he loses to Gervonta Davis, he'll try and lure Kell Brook in, who might want a couple of quid. He'll try and then fight with Chris Eubank Jr., which again sells to the British public for a number of reasons. So, but career-wise, I don't see the value in taking Gervonta Davis because I don't see him winning it.
Oh, wow. I mean, so Ngannou fighting AJ. What's your thoughts on that? You reckon that is an easy fight for AJ, or can it be difficult for AJ?
Good question. I think if you'd have asked me, I don't follow MMA, so I didn't even know Francis Ngannou was until he fought Tyson Fury. If he was fighting AJ first before Fury, I'd have been slagging AJ off like everyone was Fury, because I'd have been like, the crossover fights, the MMA fighters never ever are competitive, or certainly never beat the boxer. It's different discipline. You know, I said it before, if you put in Djokovic in with the best #1 table tennis player, the table tennis player would win, because that's their sport if you're playing table tennis. So I think it's a bit of a circus, but I understand what Eddie's doing. Again, you know, Eddie was slagging off Tyson Fury. I watched the videos myself in the build up to the fight. This is a joke fight. Why is he taking it? He's dodging AJ, blah, 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 blah. Yet then when Fury finished the fight and won it, because of what happened in that fight with the knockdown and it being a little bit close, and a lot of people, the cynics certainly saying Fury lost. I'm not sure Fury lost that. I think that the shock at how competitive the fight was has made those that are cynics, or even those that thought it was very close, you give it to a debutant who's never had a fight against the world champion who's 30 whatever and 0 and never been beaten, that a lot of people felt Ngannou won it. I don't think he did. He proved he has power. I said in the build up to the fight with Fury, whilst I didn't know anything about Ngannou, when I've watched the other crossover fights with MMA with boxers, like McGregor Mayweather as an example, that seems to be the first one I remember of doing it.
Yeah.
The boxer will always beat, and the skill and the discipline of boxing is different from that of MMA and UFC. So when you're fighting someone who allegedly is the hardest puncher in the world, which was what Ngannou was tagged, I did think that you never know if you get hit by that, because the bigger they are, the harder they fall. Cliche, but that's the fact. Let's see how it, and he caught him. But again, Tyson Fury is a warrior. He does get off the floor. Whether he should be on the floor in the first place, a lot of the fights he's had, Steve Cunningham, a cruiserweight in New York, that springs to mind. But he does get up off the floor. I think Eddie Hearn has seen that AJ stock's gone up after his last fight. Yeah, so AJ, I thought he looked good, and that's the best I've seen AJ for a while. I think the confidence is there. I think AJ is a bit more on it now. I think that AJ's confidence will be fueled, funnily enough, by a fighter he's not fighting on the night, and that's the decline of Fury, because now we'll be sitting here thinking, I could go out there and be a 3-time world champion. There's still 2 or 3 other names in the mix that I'm not sure AJ definitely beats, but I think it makes so much money for him and the sport, and I think he gets the win. And then it'll be a case of, right, let's go knock on the door. Now, if the belts get fragmented, if that's the right word, I'm not sure it is, but if they get separated, I wouldn't be going back in with Usyk if I was Fury, because I don't see that you're going to win it. You know, he's got your number, he's got the blueprint, his confidence is better now because he's beat you twice. You're probably more on the slide than him. But if all them belts became, or one of the belts became available because he went for a unification with Fury, let's say the IBF came available, and I think mandatory's Hrgovic, you know, AJ will expect to go in and be a 3-time world champion, but AJ will think that he can beat Fury now. That's for sure. I'm not sure he beats Usyk, but he would think he would beat everybody else.
See, I think he's got a good chance of beating Fury. The reason why I say this is because Ben Davis is in AJ's corner, and Ben Davis used to train Tyson Fury, and he knows Tyson Fury's weakness. So I feel that AJ may have a slim
I think
chance
you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Biyenge. Sorry if I pronounced that right, mate.
Right.
Your first name's a bit like my surname, mate. No one can ever get my surname.
Yours is the hardest in the world, John. Yours is.
I know, mate. I know. No one gets it right. No one can ever. Even my own family get it wrong, and they've got the same surname. I think that. Yes, that's a good point. And Ben Davison's one of the best coaches out there. He's young, he's modern, he's got different tactics. He's proved that. Not just with Tyson Fury. If you look at his stable and the people he's had who are world champions as well, Josh Taylor's, Lee Wood, you know, these Lee Wood, some people might have thought Lee would be a world champion 3 or 4 years ago, but he's got that. And I think that he does know Tyson Fury well, but I could give you examples where it didn't work. Hatton against Pacquiao, you know, well, he had Mayweather, knows other people. I think, who did he fight? I can't think. There was someone else that he had who he trained or something, but it doesn't mean that they're definitely going to win the fight. I just think that he might know a few weaknesses. But if you watch every Tyson Fury fight, which you could, because they're all on TV for the last 10 years, you could probably, you could spot your faults and your weaknesses there. But it adds to it, BNG. It definitely does, because it's just got that added spice to it that he does know some stuff that others wouldn't. Certainly, maybe from a mental side, you know, he would have seen things where I said that we could watch stuff. He would have seen thousands of rounds of sparring. You know, when you hear rumours that they're dropped, they do happen. I've seen it myself in sparring. So if Fury's been dropped before by this fighter and this was where it got, and he knows he's like weak at the body, or if you keep going to his body, that will wear him down because he knows that kind of stuff. That will definitely help. Whether that means AJ can beat Fury, don't know. I've said for the last 10 years that Fury beats AJ every day of the week and an extra day. I think Fury, but that's just my opinion, right? That's just my opinion.
I respect it. I love it.
But I do think right now, Fury might be on the slide, or is on the slide. You haven't got the best AJ ever. That's back before he fought Klitschko when he won the title. Maybe after Klitschko, I think he started sliding a little bit. You know, the Takam fight, the Parker fight. But you definitely have a rejuvenated Anthony Joshua, and that is because he fought well. Fury's on the slide, and he is with Ben Davison. And his last performance with his new coach, BNG, was good. So I wouldn't be surprised. And it's heavyweight boxing. You know, confidence is so important. My worry with AJ, ever since he got beat by Ruiz, sorry, I think you two are AJ fans, I can tell, but whenever he gets hit, and it's,
I'm not much of an AJ fan myself, John, to be honest with you. I respect what he's done for the sport, but 100%, I still kind of question his ability.
But he's a great fighter. There's no taking it away. But I think since he got beat by Ruiz, whenever someone engages and they hit him, he panics. When someone puts a combination on him and it's more than one punch, he definitely panics because he knows he's susceptible to being knocked down or hurt. You know, and I feel for him a bit because that first fight with Ruiz, he caught him on the temple round here and he was discombobulated, if that's the right word. And he never recovered, and he took 3 or 4 knockdowns, or was it even 5? I can't remember. And he's never been the same. But whereas Fury is a fighting man. He is what he says. He has a war. He'll stand there and trade. If Joshua knocks him down, he'll get up. If Joshua knocks him down again, he'll probably get back up. I'm not sure that AJ has that in his armory.
No, I absolutely respect that. And look, just to sort of continue what you were saying about AJ, I agree with you. I think he's definitely improved from last year. because if you look at the following year, the year before that, he lost to Usyk a few times, and it wasn't obviously a good year for him. He did well to come back. His last performance was a tremendous one. But I kind of think about Usyk, for example. Usyk's a fighter that I really, really enjoy watching in terms of his combinations, how he goes about his business, the way he's motivated as well. It kind of leads me on to the next part of our show, which is the undisputed fight. John, I just wanted to find out from you, if you were sort of a betting man, if you were gonna, make a wager, you going for Usyk to win the fight, or you going for Fury to win this fight? Who's going to be the undisputed champion of the world, in your opinion?
I've always backed Fury because I felt that Fury had the size and the skill. AJ had the size, so he should have maybe beaten Usyk, but AJ doesn't have the same skill set that Fury has. So I think Fury is more than capable of boxing how he needs to get the win, and the size will still come into play. So I've backed Fury, but after Fury's last performance, I think he could be shot, sadly, and it hurts me because I'm a big Fury fan. I hope I'm wrong because I am a Fury fan, and he's done great for the sport, just like AJ, to be fair. But I don't think he pulled out. The cut is genuine by the looks of it. On social media, we've all seen it. Even his closest allies and fans are turning on him. So if he's pulled out and faked it and booked it straight back in for May the 18th, I think is the date. If he pulls out of that, even his own mum and dad won't probably say he's a good fighter anymore. So I think he will take the fight, and I think Usyk will win it now. I do. Where I'm at today, although he looked good, if those pictures are to be believed off social media, he looked. I said to someone the other day, conditioned. I'm not sure that's the right phrase. That's like saying I'm conditioned.
Yeah.
But he looked better than he ever has physically for a long time, which means he spent the time on the conditioning, on the the diet. He's not taking him lightly, maybe like he did Ngannou and some of the other fighters, Chisoras and Whites. I think he knows he's got to be quick on his feet because Usyk will be in and out and move, and his footwork's really good, and that will pose him problems. But I'm not sure Fury's got what he used to have in him energy-wise, and to move around that ring for 12 rounds and just pin him down, in which case I see Usyk racking up the rounds. I don't see Usyk stopping Fury, but Fury might have to stop Usyk, and I'm not sure that happens.
What are you saying?
What? I think that Fury's going to win. Something just tells me he's too big, and he's got a good boxing brain, and I believe it's going to be a boring fight, but I think he'll win the fight. I can't see him knocking out Usyk because I ain't seen anyone knock out Usyk. I think Fury will win. However, I think it's a bit unfair for Zhang and Parker because ideally, I think they should be the ones should be challenging the likes of the winner of Usyk and Fury for a world title. Do you know what I mean? Rather than AJ and Ngannou.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that money talks, like we know in boxing or in any way of life, not just in sport, in life, money talks, but certainly in boxing. And, AJ against Fury after for all those belts, if Fury is back to his best and AJ beats Ngannou after beating Wallin, it just sells. If you had Usyk against Hrgovic or Usyk against Parker, I think Zhang's a different thing because he's Chinese. Depending where you have that fight, the marketability on that could be astronomical. But Parker against Usyk, at the moment, he's more deserving after what he did to Wilder. And if Parker beats Zhang, then Parker deserves a shot at it. But it doesn't sell, does it? It doesn't sell. So, Eddie Hearn's cash cow is Anthony Joshua, and that's where he puts all his attention and his money in. And Frank Warren is exactly the same with Fury. And the thing is, Fury's a fantastic talker. Love him or hate him, he's charismatic. I know people who used to despise him, and now they love him. So he can sell himself. AJ sells himself, as I say, because every bloke wants to be him. Every woman wants to be with him. He's a good-looking
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
He's a great knockout
yeah,
artist himself.
yeah,
Yeah, but it's true. It's true, and I can just see that it sells easily. Whether it's in Saudi or if we're lucky enough to have it at Wembley, we all know we'll be buying tickets to go there, unless you're lucky and get a media pass, which you might. But I'll be sat there
yeah.
somewhere watching the fight.
No,
But
no,
I think Zhang should be in there. What he's done to Joyce in them 2 fights. If Zhang beats Parker, and again, would Fury or Usyk want to go out, or AJ for that matter, to China to fight him? But that could go to a stadium in China, with one of them huge stadiums. They would sell that
yeah,
out because it would be, the population over there is huge,
yeah.
and they've not had that kind of experience with boxing, and it's heavyweight boxer, So, but we'll see. It's still
No,
a very competitive division, and we always talk about it. You've asked me straight away. All right, we started off on Conor Ben, but you've asked me about this division because it's the heavyweight division. It's just spoiled, sadly, that for one reason or another, time and time again, these big fights don't happen, and the fans get robbed.
I 100% agree with you. And you obviously just mentioned previously about, Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren. I sort of wanted to use this part of the show to actually, announce the news that was pushed out there. I just think that in terms of what you're doing, for your own shows, what Mark Neilson is obviously doing with Neilson Boxing, John, would you be able to enlighten the community about this major news? I think this is a game changer.
Yeah, we hope so, Trey. Thanks for bringing it up, because this is big for us and hopefully for Mark. Now, we appreciate the level we're at. We're certainly not Frank and Eddie yet. Maybe one day, who knows? We all have a dream. But Frank and Eddie have started working together recently, mainly because of the money that's being thrown at them from Saudi. We sadly don't have any of that money. If they want to send it our way, they're more than welcome to. But Mark Neilson and I, we've had a chat with Aaron. That's my partner as well. Mo's obviously involved. And we've had a chat that says, let's try and put on the best show you're going to get at our level, where we'll have 12 fights. It's going to be away from your call, venue and date to be confirmed, but it should be a bigger venue and a better venue than your call. That's no disrespect to your call. That's my second home, but it only holds X amount. So it'll be a nicer, bigger venue. And we'll have 12 fights on there. If we can get 12, 50 fights, amazing. If we get 8 or 9, great, with a couple of big ticket sellers. It will be a big spectacle, and it will be their fighters against ours. And it's made people go, wow, what you're doing. When you think about the fighters, the young lads and the girls that fight on these shows, they have to get their friends and family and connections to buy these tickets. If it's their 4th fight, their 5th fight, their 6th fight, and it's against a journeyman, or everyone else is against a journeyman, and it's the same kind of thing, you're asking people to part with their hard-earned money. What better experience to go, wow, he's in a 50-50 this time, and Jesus Christ, look at the rest of the card. Oh, and that venue's a bit nicer or a bit different. That actually it should be a cracking night. The fighters we'll have, we don't know yet, if that's one of your questions. My job's to speak to all the people we work with. When I say it's us against them, it will be fighters that fight for us. So, we've got some great connections. Peacock Gym, we've got Kev's got fighters out of the Matchroom Gym. We deal with some of Francis Warren fighters. There's loads of top fighters, Tibbsy fighters. All of these fighters we deal with, we'll have a chat with them and say, look, do you want to come on this show and go in a 50-50? And hopefully we'll have a few titles on there. And if they're not titles, they will be as good as titles. And it's us against them. So the most important thing, Trey, is that we beat them. So as long as it's 7-5 or 8-4 or 9-3 to us on the night, we don't. That should be a good show.
I love that. I absolutely love that, and it just shows you. Look, obviously, big up to our admin, obviously Al Heyman behind the cameras. Here is the announcement: Neilson Boxing versus TM14 Promotions. Obviously, I've worked with both you guys, but John, only because we've got a tremendous relationship. You gave me my first opportunity at Ticket Pass to just collaborate with you, so I'm just hoping that you win. So Mark, apologies, but John's a good friend of mine. So no, massive shout out.
I'm watching out for. I'm going to be looking for next week's podcast, because if he's on there, I know you're going to say the same thing. But no, it's good. It's good fun, and that's what it's all about. You know, we want people to have a look and go. The feedback we had yesterday was fantastic. It was like, you know, really nice. Like, it's great to see that you guys are doing this, and just like fighters, you know, Mark is very good at what he does. We're very proud of what we do. We've got an ego. He's got an ego, just like everybody. So collaborating with people, you know, the show's got to be put together. He'll want certain things done his way. We'll want ours. So there's a lot of negotiating and sort of like understanding each other's wishes and stuff like that. But as long as we put on a great show for the fighters and the fans, that's what it's all about, mate.
No, massive credit to you. Sorry, Biyenge, do you have any sort of further questions before we sort of promote the event, actually, cuz?
Just a quick one. I'm hearing, I don't know how true it is, Canelo might be fighting Crawford next. John, what's your thoughts on that?
Ooh.
I haven't heard that, so that's breaking news to me. That's that you can tell from like Tre's woo and my like face. They're two pound for pound fighters that have been pound for pound fighters for the last 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. It's not like they've just jumped on the scene. I think size will tell apart there. I think Alvarez lost to
Mayweather.
Bivol. No.
Or Bivol. Yeah, Bivol and Mayweather.
He did lose to Mayweather. I'm a biggest Mayweather fan. He definitely got beat that night. And he was young then. I think he was about 22 or something then. He'd had a lot of fights, but he didn't have the experience. And Mayweather was just a lot better than him. And for those people who are on Mayweather who not Mayweather, everybody moans, oh, he fought Pacquiao when he was too old. Well, Mayweather's older than Pacquiao, firstly. Secondly, you fight Canelo and then people go, he fought him when he's too young. How can you win? You know, you got a young, fresh, hungry person. Mayweather was the best. But with regards to this fight, I think Alvarez, when he got beat by Bivol, I don't think he got damaged. I don't think he got, you know, like we've talked about Fury in the Wilder fight and Wilder in the Fury fight, AJ in the Ruiz fight. Sometimes the scars are too much. I think he got beat by a bigger fighter, and there's only so far you can go. That's the reason Mayweather didn't fight at light heavyweight, because he wouldn't have beat whoever he would have fought if they were a top contender, because there's weight divisions for a reason. And I would imagine that will play its part. Although it's not as big as some divisions. Technically, Crawford, superb. He's a little bit boring at times, I find, but I find that bad saying that, because he's just very, very good. A bit like what people used to say about Mayweather, I guess. So technically, it might be hard, but as the fight wears on, I didn't even know until you told me. I think someone's put there big and strong. I think that probably would. So I'm quoting that guy's words there. I think it probably would be.
Big up Boxing After Dark as well. He has a tremendous YouTube channel. So John, make sure if you've got some time, go type in Boxing After Dark. The way he breaks down the fights and everything is tremendous. So check it out. He's obviously saying Canelo's just too big, too strong, which obviously makes sense. And Al Heyman, can you bring up Lucy's last point as well, which is cartoon fight? Lucy, thank you so much for joining us from the States. Absolutely love that. No, we agree. I absolutely agree. I do think Canelo is too big, too strong, but Crawford is strong as well. I do think he was a big welterweight. I think he was struggling to, make the weight. So in terms of making 168, I'm not too sure. I think that's such a big jump. We saw glimpses of what could potentially happen when we saw Canelo versus Charlo. He obviously moved up in weight, and he just saw that his punches weren't really affecting Canelo. So, Cuz, what do you think? What's your views on that?
Do you know what? It's boxing. Anything's possible. Do you know what I mean? Anything's possible, because it's a big jump, but then it comes down to really inactivities. I mean, like, look, Canelo so far he's fought Charlo, and he might be fighting Charlo's twin brother. And obviously, Crawford, he's been inactive. He only fought Errol Spence last year. So Canelo, possibly that he loses. Do you know what I mean? So just one of them ones. If anything, Crawford should just entertain Ennis Boots, get his belt back, and then vacate and move up, and then maybe challenge Charlo at 154, and then maybe move up to 168 and fight Canelo. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe go through those weights. It also depends what weight they make the fight at. So if they're going to drain Canelo down, you know, if they start saying you've got to come in at 165, 164, 163, it's the same kind of argument. I remember when they initially made Ben against Eubank Jr., obviously it didn't go ahead for reasons we know. I was adamant that Eubank Jr. would easily beat him because of size and probably experience. Then when he fought Liam Smith and he was drained down, look what in the first fight, I could see the argument now, which people were trying to tell me that Conor would win that, because if Canelo's drained, it makes it harder. But yeah, I think he would be too big, too strong. I don't see any value for Crawford. That would be, unless the money and the riches, which they probably would be, are off the scale. I expect Crawford possibly to retire undefeated, and deservedly. When you look at the undefeated fighters, you say Calzaghe, you say Andre Ward, you say Rocky Marciano, you say Floyd Mayweather. I'm sure I've missed someone else there in elite, but to be talked about in that bracket of fighters, if I'm Terence Crawford, or I retire with a defeat against Alvarez and say, well, I tried, just wasn't good enough. If he's not got much chance in winning it, but listen, Crawford might believe that he absolutely wins it. Technically, he's a god. He's never been nearly beaten. You know, fighters they're fighters. He'll sit there and think, I'll have him. Just like Usyk did when he stepped up in weight and said, I'll beat Joshua and I'll beat Fury. And look, he's done half the job and possibly finish it off. So it'll be interesting fight if it happens.
No, definitely. And those are some good points as well. Lucy's just confirming from 147 to 168. It's such a big jump. But I agree with you. I think Crawford's legacy is intact. I do think he's looking for the bigger fights. From my understanding, Boots Ennis, that fight doesn't really appeal to him because he feels like Boots' stock is not really that high enough for him to kind of, you know, do the 147 division again. I think he's moving up. 168, no, but I do see a window opportunity for him to move up to 154. There's Tim Tszyu obviously fighting Keith Thurman. Spence is obviously going to move up. Are we going to see the Spence versus Crawford rematch at 154? That's a question that I wanted to sort of throw to you guys. Can we potentially see that, or is that just off the table?
I was one of the few that said that I thought Spence would beat Crawford. How wrong I was.
Me.
You know,
yep, I was wrong.
Was saying about everybody was saying about the eye.
Sorry to cut you off, John. I actually had you know, Denzel Bentley in one of your events. Actually, I said to him, "Look, Spence is gonna win. You're gonna realize the truth." And he just looked at me and was like, "You just wait and see." And look, we're both in the same position when it comes to that. But I still believe in Spence. A lot of people are saying that he should retire, etc. But I think there is still fight in him. He just needs to move up in weight, and I definitely think Crawford should do the same as well. All these guys just move up in weight and just allow the young guys like, you know, Conor Benn, Boots Ennis. You know, you got Mario Barrios, he's the interim WBC champion. There's quite a few fighters. I want to see a new sort of crop of welterweights coming through. We're going to see Devin Haney eventually move up there. That's the pathway. See a few more Lopez. I see all these guys moving up to 147 eventually.
Yeah, I wouldn't be that interested in the rematch. I think the right fighter won it, and I think maybe all the stuff people were saying, the car crash, the eye, the inactivity, I just thought that he was that bit bigger and he was hard as nails and never showed any weaknesses. I was at Bramall Lane as the biggest Kell Brook fan ever, and broke my heart and all the Sheffield United fans because he just disposed of him, and that was Kell Brook at his best. I wouldn't mind seeing him against Tim Tszyu. You know, you say, I know he's not as experienced, but listen, I think Tim Tszyu's good and he's not been exposed yet, but it would be a big step up for Tim Tszyu. But he's going up in weight, right, Crawford? So if he goes up to 154, you've got the weight gone up. Tszyu, you're not beaten until you're beaten. I wouldn't mind seeing that fight, but I don't know if it sells as much. It certainly don't sell as much as a Canelo, and I'm not sure it sells as much as a rematch with Spence either, probably, but time will tell.
Time will definitely tell. Yes, sorry, cuz before we sort of wrap up the show, Is there any sort of news that you saw online that you felt, you know what, let's discuss this with Jon before we obviously talk about Jon's next upcoming event with TM14 Promotions, of course?
No, pretty much covered everything. No, nothing at all.
No, that's absolutely tremendous. Jon, once again, I just wanted just to say to you, thank you so much for giving us your time, of course. Al Heyman, could you put up the picture for TM14's next event, which is coming up this month? So guys, make sure if you're in your call, Bethnal Green, make sure you get some tickets for these shows. I'm telling you, we've been, myself and obviously Biyenge, we've gone to the events and we know that these fights are 50-50. It's fair. You're going to see action, and you're obviously going to see two handsome men, which is obviously Jon and Aaron, obviously going to be there supporting their fighters. And yeah, I want to definitely come to your next event, Jon, on the day.
Always welcome, mate, both of you. So look, we're plugging the show, but that's possibly the best show we've done out of 40 odd. There'll be 3 title fights on there. One Southern area is 11-0 against 7-0. The other one's 5-0 against 4-0. We've got some of the top talent. We've got Tibbsy fighters on there out of Origins. We've got Peacock fighters on there. We've got a Matchroom fighter on there. Just top talent out of the south of England. And as you say, Trey, there's a few 50-50s on there. And it will be a very good show. But still tickets available. I'm always going to sell. So get your tickets either off the fighters or come to us direct or pay on the door.
Yes. So, guys, we're going to put the information in the description after the show, of course. I've got my Congo hat on because obviously Congo are playing now. It's the semi-finals. But just before we go, Lucy obviously just wanted to just get your thoughts on John Ryder retiring. Just very quickly, Jon, what's your thoughts on him retiring, and how has his career been for you?
Yeah, no worries. Hi, Lucy. Good question. It's always a shame when a Brit retires. I only found out about an hour or so before I came on the call, so I think it landed this afternoon. Been just a great fighter for British boxing. At times, I think, and I hope he takes this the right way if he's watching, maybe did better than what I thought he would do. You know, he got some big fights, and at the end he got some money fights for himself as well, which, listen, when you go in the sport and you're a fighter like someone of the ability of Jon, your ambitions to win a world title and get that far, but you also definitely think, if I'm good enough, I want to get enough money to secure my life for my family. And I don't know whether he's got kids. I bumped into him actually at the Muhammad Ali, you know, the Rumble in the Jungle event that they had in London, and he was there, and I had a chat with him. I've also seen him in the Brentwood gym a couple of times in Matchroom. But yeah, great fighter, done really well. We'll have some money now, and he'll move on. It'd just be interesting to see what he does. You know, some of them stay in the sport, do some commentary and work behind the scenes. You know, Eddie Hearn's very loyal to ex-pros. You know, you think of Darren Barkers, you think of your Tony Bellews, these kind of people. So will he be part of that Matchroom team and stable? Equally, I wouldn't be surprised if he sort of like puts the gloves up and sort of like advises and teaches these youngsters coming through. He's very close with Tony Sims in that gym in Essex. He could be a big part in that gym for them. But no, great fighter. Good luck to him.
No, massive love to you, and obviously Biyenge as well. And Lucy, thank you so much. She's obviously saying that I agree, definitely he's an overachiever. Yeah, so Jon, obviously this is the end of the show. Once again, Jon, thank you so much for the time that you afforded us today. We absolutely obviously love your energy. And Boxing After Dark, once again, Jon, make sure you tune into his YouTube channel. He's obviously saying good luck with your show, yeah. Jon. And massive love to the community as well. And just before we go, just a quick shout out to our apparel partners, which is obviously D-Rock. So Ikram, could you put the love?
Oh, your sound's gone again.
I can hear you though, Biyenge.
It sounds gone. Well, listen, this is it. Thank you for coming on again on the show, Jon. Guys, we're back here again on Sunday at 7:30. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Have a lovely, productive week. Peace and love.
Thanks for having me, guys. Catch you all soon. Cheers.
It's another bang. All the and cars now, whichever get up. Light up my card with a sweet one bliss. Someone flips me a bag by the